The All Dress Podcast with Conor McKenna, Eric Bacramella, and Shaun Starr starts now.
Yes, welcome back. It's a new edition of the All Dress Podcast. I think we're on episode 5.
This is correct.
5.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
It's a milestone.
We're catching up to Tom Brady.
A lot of people thought we'd never be able to get here, but here we are now. And a special shout out to the people who gave us a 0-star rating on our Apple Podcast page without having listened, obviously, to the podcast.
That was my mom.
Sorry if I said something mean about your favorite player on Twitter. Anyway,
Loser.
Nice to be with you here. And Eric, Shaun, the whole gang's here. The Canadians fresh off a 6-game road trip that ended kind of interestingly. I think a lot like the Dominic Ducharme era. It ended with a loss, but they still got a point. They erased two-goal deficits in that game against the Jets. I'm honestly, guys, feeling pretty good about the result they got there last night. I think the 3-on-3 factor leaves a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, but let's dive right into this. Glass half full or glass half empty when it comes to this road trip?
Oh, I am almost, I don't want to say I'm overflowing with positivity, but I'm very positive. I'm very, very positive. Like 2 mistakes, 2 goals. Like those are such correctable mistakes. Xavier Ouellet bumping into Carey Price, Shea Weber, a little careless with the puck. It beats the netminder. Other than that, like there wasn't anything egregious, Eric. And maybe the highlight of it all is Phil Deneau scored a goal. He's got 2. I mean, like I'm actually legitimately pleased in a game, Eric, where they lost.
I'm tired. And it's not because they're late games. I'm physiologically spent. This team now kind of feels like a team that is a losing team that wins every once in a while. I was so happy when they tied it up. I spent the second period on TikTok. I was back for the third period. I can't get off TikTok. I've discovered this Montana Tucker, whatever her name is. She's so real, so genuine and sincere. But the thing is, it gets tiresome. But I'm optimistic. But the 3-on-3 situation I understand the logic of having Deneau start 3-on-3 because he's good on faceoffs. And then, playing with Byron, that was a little bit odd.
Yeah.
I think if you win the faceoff, you come up, but I think you got to have confidence in your guys. You put it on the ice 3-on-3. I would have liked to see Suzuki with Toffoli and Petrie, and after that, Anderson with Douin. Guys who can skate, guys who can score. That was a bit disappointing. I guess, guys, I'm not as optimistic as you are, only because, to recap, I'm tired, man. I'm tired of the losses.
Conor, can I just say, what do you think of Eric spending time on TikTok? Is that like a 42-year-old man going to the club with a polyester suit on, like he doesn't belong? Like, what's up with that, Conor?
I am not going to judge. I don't know what he's doing on TikTok. The only exception I'll say is, Eric, the first period should be your TikTok period. The second period is the money period for the Montreal Canadiens this year. It's their most fun period, the most goal-filled and entertaining period. So make the first period. Remember the Flames on Saturday night, the outshot 16-6. The game was over in the first period. That's when you want to be TikToking. And just for the Montana Tucker.
Yeah.
I don't know if I had the name right, but she's an influencer.
She's 28 years old. So
she does a lot of dancing.
It's not that inappropriate. I'm just gonna say.
There's nothing.
I was worried you were gonna
look. The first time I went on TikTok was because one of my clients, an automotive company, needed something done. I'd never been on TikTok before. Then I spent the next 3 weeks on TikTok. I didn't. This is why my beard is so long. Now I've migrated from creepy guy on TikTok to guy who likes to watch the spontaneous dancing in the middle of the street TikTok guy.
Did you just say you vibrated from, or you migrated? Oh, okay.
Migrated.
All right.
While vibrating.
Oh, geez. Okay, guys. So sorry, Montana Tucker knocked us off track there for a second. Let's get this baby back on the rails. So, I'm going to tell you why I feel good about it. And why I feel good about the record overall. For 4 wins, I realize, right? So here's the thing. I'm going to talk about the road trip, talk about the Dominic Ducharme era, talk about the record overall. We can get bogged down in wins and losses. And I understand that it matters. But for my money, if I take the 4 overtime and shootout losses so far under Dominic Ducharme, it's disappointing. But what it tells me is that in 7 of the 11 games that they've played, they've either won in regulation or they've been able to sorry, no, 8. Is it 8? 4, 3, and 4. In 8 of the 11 games, they have either won it in regulation or taken it to 60 minutes tied. And guess what? If they're able to do that, A, they're going to make the playoffs. B, in the playoffs, it ain't no 3-on-3 overtime. It's 5-on-5. This is a good 5-on-5 team. To me, this bodes well for long-term success. I don't think any of these teams, they may laugh when they go to 3-on-3 with the Canadians, and they may think it's an easy W. And that's it's a low-hanging fruit. It's an easy thing to pick on, but I don't think any of these teams is going to relish going to 5-on-5 overtime with the Canadians if and when a playoff series rolls around. That to me is a far more important statistic. 60 minutes, they're either tied or winning in 8 out of 11 games under Dominic Ducharme. That's the money stat.
Well, that's it. I mean, there's so many different reasons to be positive. It's the fact that since they moved away from Claude Julien and Kirk Muller, this team's power play is now a respectable 13th in the NHL. It's no longer a zapper of any sort of momentum. Like, you can look at the power play and say, oh, they might actually score here. Let's look at how they performed Thursday in Winnipeg, down 2-0, down 3-1, 3-3. They lose the single point. They could have won that game. In the odds of probability, them going 0 for 8 in these basically coin flip situations is abnormal. I don't think there's any trend to look at. I don't think there's anything that's a cause for concern. And I'll go back to my earlier point, Eric, when I talk about you're looking for things that give you hope, something to cling on to. Jonathan Drouin playing better. Tyler Toffoli's got 18 goals. Phil Deneau, we mentioned, he's got 2 goals. These are little things of positivity that I believe when you add them up, it should give you some sort of relief when you look at the 0-8 record in the 3-on-3 and the shootout.
Yeah, I think those are all good points. And I think it's important as a Habs fan for me to separate how I feel about the season as a whole, particularly the darkness of February, and separate that from the last, 10 games, 11 games that Double D's has coached. I'm a big fan of Double D's. Huge fan of Double D's, the coach. Big fan. And I love what he's done with the D pairings. I love there's been a change in culture. Kotkaniemi hasn't smiled on the ice really since his second season. And, I love how these players are playing with more confidence. I guess I want to understand, guys, maybe help me understand, Conor. Why are the Canadians unsuccessful 3-on-3?
I think that they're not prepared. I mean, look, I think it's basically what I really want to do is blame Claude Julien for not having his team prepared for the 3-on-3 overtimes for a long time, and just say that Dominic Ducharme, it's not something that Dominic Ducharme can just snap his fingers and have change. It's going to be the result of making changes and emphasizing that. And we talked to Marc Denis about this on the morning show this morning. And Marc said he doesn't think that Dominic Ducharme, given the areas he needs to focus on to make the Canadians successful and build the team in the image he wants, that frankly, they just haven't had enough time to dive into the 3-on-3, which it would be nice if they could be better, but it's not an area of focus for this team. They wanted to improve on the power play. They wanted to get better at supporting one another. They wanted to make the adjustments to their system 5-on-5 that would make them a better team. I think they've been able to do that. The fact that they look the same as they did under Claude Julien at 3-on-3, it's disheartening. The fact that Ducharme is not making better personnel decisions, or at least different ones, right? Because I don't know if it'd be better to start with someone who's not Paul Byron. But we had a great text someone sent in on the morning show today, and somebody said, you got 3 guys to choose, and one of them is a guy who just cleared waivers earlier today. Is that really sort of the best option at 3-on-3? We have seen it. It's as if you keep going back to the same guys in the shootout over and over again, expecting that it's going to work out differently. Why not try somebody else? I mean, these guys aren't scoring. So that to me, it's probably more personnel based than anything else. Right. But Petrie's moment in overtime where he chose to turn around and take on 3 guys instead of making the easy, smart, and right play, which was just pass it back to Tyler Toffoli. He's sitting there waiting for you. You get off. They make a change, and off you go try to score again. that's a testament to the fact that they're just not in the right headspace 3-on-3, and that I can't blame Dominic Ducharme for.
Well,
Connor,
that's
the only
that's where
Sean, hang on.
yeah.
Just one thing I want to say, Connor, is a lot of people have been criticizing Petrie for that move in overtime for what he did, the decision he made. But maybe the blame lies with Deneau for making that pass to Petrie rather than feeding it out of the zone, right?
Which one? What do you mean? He set him up. Petrie could have scored, and then he put him in a good spot again right after that. What I thought Deneau was great, actually. I mean, a lot of people are complaining about Deneau, but he gave Petrie 2 opportunities. Did he not?
The issue is that when he passed the puck back to Petrie in the second instance, there were 2 guys on him. I just would
Those
have
guys
liked
weren't.
to have seen them exit the zone.
He gave them lots of time to close in on him. He had time to make a play long before 3 guys converged on him, at least in my view.
Well,
Shaun?
that's why, that's where, with Dominic Ducharme, I think that's where he dropped the ball. And I think, what Connor's talking about in terms of looking at personnel, I think there's a strong element of just simply overthinking it. Like to the point the texter made about Paul Byron, like really, like you're 0 for 8. You've tried various scenarios. You've tried Jeff Petrie every time. You've tried Phil Deneau. Like, are you really overthinking? Well, okay, so you need Phil Deneau, you need the speed, and you need the goal scoring defensive presence of Jeff Petrie. Like, okay, fine. What about, maybe arguably your most dangerous forward on a nightly basis in Josh Anderson, who's not slow by any stretch. And that's where the frustration is that you've tried various scenarios. You've stuck with too many of the same scenarios 8 different times and you've gotten skunked. So that's the disappointing area. And if I jump into that conversation with you guys about what happened with Jeff Petrie there, I mean, that was like ball hockey-esque, man. That was a guy just trying to go through the entire team. There was a chance there, and I think Dominic Ducharme also should get some blame for not calling his guys back to the bench. There was ample opportunity to change on the fly there without Jeff Petrie having to go through 3 Winnipeg Jets that turned into the odd man rush and Nick Ehlers scoring the game-winning goal.
I have notes here as you guys are talking, and the 2 things I've written down are puck possession and fear-based overtime. It seems like
Totally
the complement of guys they have on the ice to start 3-on-3 overtime suggests to me the Canadians and double Ds, again, love double Ds, huge fan of double Ds, are playing OT not to lose. You've got to play to win. And number 2, guys like Toffoli, guys like Drouin, they're good when it comes to puck possession. I don't know if 3-on-3 is necessarily about speed as much as it's about puck possession. Those are the guys who give you a chance to win. And Toffoli can score with his eyes closed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think you make a good point there. And it's just, I think you're right. The puck possession is the most important thing. You watch any team that's effective at 3-on-3, and they don't care. The last thing you're worried about at 3-on-3 is holding the line. Keep the puck in at the blue line. Don't worry about that. Just keep the puck.
Mm-hmm.
Get it, play it back into your own defensive zone. There's a guy there. Play it to your goalie, for God's sake, if you need to. Get off, get fresh legs on, and then get going again and make another run at it. But that's the thing that'll drive you nuts is, listen, you're going to lose at 3-on-3 overtime. If that's what the default setting is, then why not lose with your best guys? Man, we've seen you lose with Paul Byron and Phil Deneau out there. Yeah. So let's try something else. Even if you lose, fine, you still lost, but at least you did it trying something new. At least you did it with your best horses out there. For the love of God, you have the 2nd highest scoring player in the National Hockey League. Give him an opportunity to score. That's Tyler Toffoli. Only Austin Matthews has more goals than him. So, they've got plenty of guys who I think deserve an opportunity. We're going to keep it moving?
Please.
All right. Let's keep it moving.
You guys want to talk about Marc Bergevin? His media availability this week. He spoke, I guess, basically kind of a mid-season availability, right? And for starters, Eric, let me go to you first. What was your headline? What was your takeaway from Bergevin's media availability?
Well, 2 things. First, just to recap, huge fan of double Ds, nothing to do with Bergevin. When it comes to Bergevin's press conference, look, I have said many times that he's my employee of the month for the Canadians for 4 straight months. I love what he did, the acquisitions, bringing in Stanley Cups.
Eric, you've said it so many times that you probably don't need to say it again.
But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to be fair here. Let people know that I'm being fair. But thank you for the guidance. What we saw in that press conference is what we've seen for the past 9 years. And that's Bergevin telling us his job is really hard. And I'm getting sick and tired. If you had a psychologist watch his press conference over the past 8 or 9 years, they might say that this person might feel slightly overmatched by the job. I don't know whether it's the case or not, and maybe it's not, but a lot can be revealed in the language that we select when we express ourselves. And I'm just tired of hearing him say it's a hard job. He's done a wonderful job over the past, 6 to 12 months. Stop saying it's a hard job. Stop saying anything can happen in the playoffs. Just got to get in. No, we don't say that. We say we are a good team. I've done a good job. We've acquired some great difference makers. Onward we go.
You know why I think he says that? I think he says that because he just genuinely doesn't believe that the media knows what they're talking about and what they're saying or what they're writing. I honestly believe that. And I think through 9 years of Marc Bergevin, listening to this gentleman talk for almost a decade, seeing his tone of voice, his delivery, the message change, hearing sometimes the hostility when he's second guessed about a particular move, why or why not. I often get the impression that, well, listen, I played the game. I've been in an executive position now for many years, and now I'm the guy who runs the team. Just trust me. And let me remind you how difficult of a job I have, because you guys and you girls just don't understand. And that's the impression that has rubbed off on me in the last 4 or 5 years.
What did he say? What was the passage that this is hard passage? Can you paraphrase for me what it was?
No, I was listening to it live. There were just
Okay.
a couple of instances where he said it. And then as Shaun had mentioned at the top of the podcast, he mentioned just if we just get in.
Yeah.
And look,
Yeah.
I understand
Well, it's a
where he's
crutch
coming
for him,
from.
guys.
I
It's a
cannot-
crutch. So
Yeah, and I can understand his position. But I think he's done a really good job recently. And that should be the focus. This team hasn't come together as we've hoped, but it is a good complement of players. And this team, as you said, Conor, is really good 5-on-5. And if they continue to trend in the right direction, this is going to be a playoff team.
Not only that, but let's not forget. I mean, I know a lot of people aren't saying this, and maybe I'm wrong about it. Okay, but it reminds me a bit of the Raptors. Remember when the Raptors fired? Who was it? Right before they brought in Nick Nurse, was it Sam Mitchell?
was it Dwayne Casey or Sam Mitchell?
Dwayne
One of the
Casey,
two.
think it
maybe
was-
that's right.
yeah.
So, and he was he not? He was the reigning coach of the year. He had
believe
just
so.
won Coach of the Year. It reminds me of this. If you're going to look at the GM of the year in the NHL, has anybody done better than the Toffoli contract, the Domi for Anderson trade, the Jake Allen acquisition, the Joel Edmondson acquisition has worked out well, the Corey Perry signing? Who has a better each and every one of those, right? Who among the NHL general managers? I'd hold that up for executive of the year, for GM of the year in the NHL, especially if that's going to be awarded. I mean, really that award should be voted for, I think, after the playoffs. And maybe it is now, I'm not sure. But I'm just saying, in terms of nobody had a better offseason than Marc Bergevin did, right? And that's why I find it funny when it's like, this is it for Marc Bergevin. I'm like, well, if we're judging him based on the last 6 months or 7 months, I don't know if any GM's had a better 7 months. You want to fire this guy? Well, why? Everything he tried to do to improve the team worked. The problem was all the other stuff. A lot of which he couldn't control. Even firing Claude Julien, I think, there's another move. Firing Stefan Waite. Those moves have also worked out pretty well, I think, so far, based on the way Price is playing. I mean, that's an amazing thing about it. When it comes to Bergevin's press conference, you know what? Maybe I'm a little starved for it, but I found it refreshing that he actually said we have to make the playoffs. He actually vocalized that when he said we hope to make the playoffs, we want to make the playoffs, but this time he said we have to make the playoffs. We must make the playoffs. That to me is meaningful for him to come out and say that. And I think it also does speak to the fact that right now, if the Canadiens miss the playoffs, it would be kind of a disaster. Based on where they are right now, based on the games in hand, based on the teams that are chasing them down, they have to make the playoffs. He's right. But that's not the bar, I don't think. I think he knows that they've got to do a little bit more than that. But I thought this was a better Marc Bergevin press conference than what I've really become used to. I found him to be a little bit more forthcoming and a little bit more
transparent.
direct.
Sure, transparent. Yeah.
Direct.
Yeah,
You know,
because
and
I
I felt that press conference. Sorry, Sean. I felt that press conference was the equivalent of Bergevin going to the Habs dressing room and delivering a message. That was a press conference in part designed to communicate to the players, this is not acceptable. We have to get in the playoffs and we have to win. And the other thing I'll add is this before I toss it to Shaun is the job Bergevin has been utterly remarkable in the salary cap world. To so dramatically change your team is literally impossible. And he changed this team.
He did, and he deserves, whether it's an Executive of the Year award that's coming his way. We know it ain't going to Kevin Adams in Buffalo, so that's one opponent he doesn't really have to worry about moving forward. But there is this element, and one of the other crutch phrases he dropped in that press conference was well, anything's possible, just get me in, right? And I'll defend him there. I think he's totally right, and I think he approached that 100% the right way. And feel free to jump in and disagree with me all you want, but like, you're not going to come out Marc Bergevin. You don't have the team. You're not the Tampa Bay Lightning. Like, you're not a heavy hitter. You don't have the opportunity to say, yeah, you know what, we're going to win a round. We're going to win at least 2 rounds here, and then anything is possible. We'll see what happens then. It has to begin with tempered expectations. And like Conor said, it is refreshing to hear, well, we have to make the playoffs, and then anything is possible. You can't commit yourself to anything that's quantified that could be actually proven to be false, and look how stupid you sound because you said we're going to win a round, guaranteed. You can't do that.
But yeah, exactly. So I mean, isn't we must, or we need to make the playoffs much better than we hope to? Like,
Yes,
it's a baby step, but it's a step.
But do you read into it like I do? I mean, I know I've been consistent, believing that if it does go sideways and they don't make the playoffs, that it's a fireable offense. Is he saying that? Because I think he is. Like, we have to make the playoffs. What does that mean? We have to. Well, you have to make the playoffs. And if you don't, you've made this declaration of confidence that we have to make the playoffs. And if you don't achieve your goal, like a lot of companies have that structure, what are your objectives? What do you hope to do to make yourself a better employee and prove to your value to your company? Well, here's one of my goals, Jeff Molson, make the playoffs. And at the end of the year, when you evaluate this man's job, well, there's an objective you clearly missed. Therefore, justified in removing you from that position.
Shaun, it pains me to say this, but I agree with what Conor is suggesting.
What's it pain you?
Bergevin has had a really remarkable run. And while we talked about whether he's fighting for his job and whether ownership might be of the view it's time for a change, it's not, if the Habs went to playoffs, it's not time for a change because the vision for this franchise has changed. Bergevin was remarkable in the off season, and I don't see there being a value add in bringing somebody else in. And I'd add, Bergevin has such a great eye for talent. I think he can make this team even better. I don't know whether we make a trade, Conor and Shaun, whether Bergevin executes on a trade, which would be tough given the cap space, but ultimately whether he makes the playoffs or not, I think he should stay.
I think, well, that, I don't know. I mean, should is a different question, but there's so many variables that, it's like, I could go down a whole thing on this, right? Yeah. Like, look, if you're telling me that they'll hire the best person for the job, regardless of what language they speak, yada, 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 I'd be a lot more open to the idea. But I just think they're kind of pot committed with Bergevin. Your trade question's interesting. I think I'm gonna be the sort of just the naysayer or the wet blanket or the stick in the mud or whatever expression you want to use. I don't think there's going to be anything of note done. And I think part of that I take away from what Marc Bergevin said in his press conference. It was basically, these guys are the ones that are going to have to figure this out. These are the guys that we're going to be going with. He went at pains to complain about the cap space. When he was asked about the cap space, he clearly understands the situation that they're in. There aren't really any gymnastics that they can do. So I don't think it's reasonable to think they bring in an impact player. Maybe they could find a way to do like a Luke Glendening, something like that out of Detroit. That's a name I've heard come up and I've brought up a few times. But other than that, I'm not expecting. I'm expecting much closer to Andreas Martinson, Dwight King than I am Eric than I am Thomas Vanek or Jeff Petrie.
Oh my goodness gracious! Please don't let that happen.
Well, I don't mean
I know what you mean.
Get a couple of jobbers. I just mean guys that aren't going to be difference makers.
Listen, if they can look at who they have as potential guys that might not be here next year, whether it's Phil Deneau, who on the record, I would not trade now or any day between now and April 12th. Yoel Armia, s'il vous plaît. And the tuna, big tuna there, Thomas Tatar. That's the guy I would look at moving. If I could get some, whether it's a package deal, it helps with my salary cap relief. I'm looking at Cole Caulfield. Perhaps I don't want to get overextend myself, but maybe thinking that he could be an impactful player as early as next season for this organization. In the best case scenario, that's someone I could maybe look at that could be attractive to a team that could look at Tatar and say, hey, when the Canadians got hands on this guy, he was a completely different player when he left Vegas. Maybe an organization general manager thinks likewise and say, on my playoff run, I can get a veteran guy who's good for 20 goals, new city, new start, rental contract, boom, bada bing, bada bum, done. Let's go. So that's a player I would look at. Otherwise, I think Connor's right. I think I leave it on the lap of the players in that room. And don't make dumb
I understand
decisions.
what Bergevin was doing in that press conference in part. It was a message to the players. Look, you guys are accountable and responsible and trying to manage expectation. It doesn't mean a move is not going to be made. But if a move is made, salary has to go out the door. There's no doubt about that. But the Canadians do have a lot of draft capital coming up, 14 draft picks, and you can't reasonably integrate all those players into your system. So there are assets here to dispose of, but a player has to go out along with those draft picks. And I don't know the extent to which Bergevin is open to that. But boy, wouldn't it be nice to get a puck-moving defenseman?
100%. More than anything else, Connor, I don't know, like if how you prioritize the wants and needs of the Montreal Canadiens, but if we go back to the start of this podcast together and the gaps made defensively again, Ouellet didn't run into Price on purpose, but sloppy kind of mental mistakes, kind of giveaways, you need to shore that up. And that to me is priority number one.
Yeah, but the market is so bad. Yeah. If you can go out and find somebody who maybe has a year more than a couple of months left on their deal, then it changes the equation. But the names that are out there outside of Ekholm, who's the home run hitter, and even then he's the home run hitter considering who the other guys are. But Ekholm was at his best in a top four that had Ryan Ellis, PK Subban in his prime, Ekholm, and who's the other guy? I don't know, somebody else who was really good. That he's not that good anymore.
Seth Jones, was it?
No, he had already been traded for Ryan Johansson at that time. But anyway, remember when Nashville was contending for a Stanley Cup? Remember how good Ekholm was, right? And I think the effect that it
you thinking of Roman Josi?
Oh, that's right.
Right.
That's right.
Him.
That's right.
Yeah,
so, but you know what I mean? That's the thing with Ekholm was even at that time, he was probably the fourth best defenseman in that top four. And that was a hell of a top four. And Ekholm looks so good, but you have to remember that, guess what? That was a couple of years ago. He's been playing since then. And let's be honest here. How many Nashville Predators games have you watched in the last 2 seasons? I'm not going to pretend that I've watched a lot of them. The numbers tell me, and what I've heard tell me, that Matthias Ekholm, once you take him out of a situation where he's surrounded with that good of a blue line, does not look nearly as good. And he's not the guy. Like, if you think Matthias Ekholm is the guy who's going to come in and resurrect Shea Weber, I don't think that's who this player is. I don't think he ever has been. There's some defensemen who make other guys look better. The guys next to them look better, the Andrei Markovs of the world. And then there's guys that need a guy to make them look good. And unfortunately, I think Weber does need that guy at this point of his career. I don't think that guy is Joel Edmondson, but I also don't think Alexander Edler's that guy. I'm not convinced Matthias Ekholm is that guy. That's one of the toughest knocks on Bergevin, is that it remains to this day that he brought in this guy and he never really had a partner for him. Other than that one season with Andrei Markov, he's never really had a proper partner for the guy that he invested so much in.
And maybe that's in part why I feel as strongly as I do about prioritizing a defenseman, because I think you're right. It's another area where Marc Bergevin has a chance to protect himself with what he did this offseason and make himself look a little bit better. Bringing in Josh Anderson, Tyler Toffoli. I mean, we just finished discussing Marc Bergevin. Seemingly it's his award to lose for general manager of the year.
I don't think that's true. Just for the record.
Okay, so fine. So it's an exaggeration of a statement.
No, but I'm just saying there's a compelling case to be made. That's all.
So I do think, though, that it's another opportunity for him to protect what he's done and make himself shine a bit brighter by maybe looking at those 14 picks, or maybe looking at a prospect in Laval and saying, you know what, it's worth the sacrifice.
But as Eric says, you still got to move a guy out to create that
Tatar.
Tatar's
Tatar's my guy.
complicated.
Sean, the only thing I would say is that, when it comes to these types of moves, I do say I've got a lot of confidence in Bergevin because of his eye for talent, because of the organization's eye for talent. If a move is made, I'm confident it'll make the team better. What that move is, I don't know. Speaking to a few of my buddies who are agents, Bergevin has expressed interest in all the players that we've always talked about. Mm-hmm. It's always an issue of making those players fit within the existing ecosystem that is the Montreal Canadiens. But if anybody can get it done, he showed us in the offseason, Bergevin can get it done. And this team would be improved with a top 4D. It would be great to have that.
Yes.
Are you Mark Bergevin's number one fan, Eric McCormill?
I am trying to be fair and fulsome. And again, love Double D's. Great hire.
Honestly, I think based on my reputation, that anybody who's actually listened to this podcast would be shocked to hear how much time I spend defending Mark Bergevin and talking about what a great job he's doing.
Well, I've always found you to be fair. I think that's your hallmark, is that you tend to take an even-keeled approach, and you are not driven typically by emotions, which is great. So, I think there's value in that.
Thank you, Eric. That's very kind of you to say. Although,
Eric,
I wish it were more true than it actually is.
Eric, are you Connor McKenna's number one fan?
Hey, you know what? I bike to work today. That's why I'm wearing my awesome dad Under Armour that you love so much. With my, look at my lats. These are not even mine. These are implants. And I listened to you guys on the way in, and it's an absolute joy to listen to your show, because it's not, you guys understand, you don't need to be hyper emotional, nor do you need to scream to get people to listen. You just need to be reasonable and intelligent and entertaining. It's infotainment with a level of decency and civility, and that's why I like it.
I could never be that carnival barker. I could that ridiculous over the top personality. I don't even think Connor. I don't think we'd work as well together if one of us were like that.
No, we'd hate each other. Okay, so listen, a couple other things that we want to get to, and I don't want to rush too much, but I think we've done pretty well. We've got a lot of Habs content in here. There's a couple of other things that are, it's important to me that we do, so we don't just get too bogged down in the Canadians. And one of them is this. I have a general life question that I want to run past you guys and hear what you have to say about it, okay? So I'm in my house. I've been living here for a couple of months. We love it. We're very happy, but we're in a new neighborhood. We no longer live in St. Henry. We now live in Point St. Charles. But just now, my girlfriend left the house to run her errands. And one of the things she's doing is going to the dry cleaner. What dry cleaner is she going to? The dry cleaner that's on the corner next to our old place in St. Henry. It's roughly a 15 to 20 minute drive, maybe 15-minute drive from where we are right now, where there are some perfectly good dry cleaners right within a 5-minute walk of where we live right now. Now, she loves our dry cleaner. She feels horrible for this person who bought the business, right? I think it was probably January last year that they bought the business. And then remember that the Quebec government shut down dry cleaners because we all know those dry cleaning outbreaks that were occurring, right? So she's so loyal that she feels that she must continue to go to this same dry cleaner. Where do you draw the line on that loyalty, and where do you guys come down on this?
Look, Connor, I understand loyalty when it comes to a hairdresser. I have beautiful, lush, curly Egyptian hair. It requires a team of engineers, and I am loyal to a hairdresser, and I will travel out of my way. I've had the same guy for 15 years, almost as long as I've been in Ottawa. Dry cleaners, to me, that does not demand the same level of loyalty, right? And I'm telling you, this is going to be short-lived with Flamanda going to that dry cleaner, because the busier you guys get, and you're very important people with tremendous lives, she will err on the side of convenience.
Mm-hmm. Well, the other side of it is because there's inevitably the return trip to go pick up the dry cleaning, right?
I think she's doing the right thing.
Too. You're right.
It's an admirable trait. It speaks to the quality of her character, that she thinks of others before herself, and how much time she spends doing these chores to keep the house running and efficient. And also the other thing, and more importantly, is that what would you say the split is in terms of what she's bringing? 80% her wardrobe, 50-50 split wardrobe? What would you say the split is?
No, because remember, like, she works in television, so she.
Okay, so that's what I didn't want to say that, but so I'll say 95 to 5% probably, right? I know you like to get your jeans dry cleaned, but it's important for a woman like her in her business, Connor, that the trust factor. We all remember that great episode from Seinfeld. Just admit you shrunk my sweater. Just admit it. If she has a great track record, if their batting average is 1,000, risk reward, baby. Sorry, I'm staying loyal to my old St. Henry neighborhood.
Connor, I hate to break it to you, man, but her going to this dry cleaner, honestly, it's a little bit suspicious. And frankly, because no one is loyal to a dry cleaner, to me, this may be a basis to break up. I think it's time for a sit down.
The preemptive breakup before things go south, we better break up, kind of thing. Yeah.
Can we do it on the podcast, please?
Oh, that would be so great.
Yeah.
Stream the breakup.
Imagine the comments.
Why is there so much starch?
Yes.
Starch is very suspicious.
I always knew she could do better.
All right, and then we got to get to our top four. I think you guys have given me some sage counsel here. I appreciate it. So this week's top four, big four, hot four, four down, faux down. I don't know. We need a name for this. But this week, I wanted to go music. You guys
quadruple D's?
No, Eric, you can. That's your running joke. We don't want to take that away.
Okay, sorry.
Top four rappers, top four MCs of all time in the rap game. What do we have here? We've got 42-year-old Shaun Starr. We have
Super white.
The ageless Eric Macramella. I'm 38 years old. So who goes first? You guys want me to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
We can do rock, paper, scissors if you want.
Well, I went last time. So, okay, sure. So 1, 2, 3, shoot. Okay. Best 2 out of 3. No. Well,
just the two of you?
No, we don't want to exclude anybody. No, that's not right. I'll go first.
Another party I wasn't invited to. Thanks.
I'm not going to do this. I don't really have this in any order necessarily. Okay.
Put it in
it has to be in order from 4 to 1.
It has to be in order.
Does it?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Yes. All right. Number 4, Lil Wayne.
Okay.
Wow.
You cannot argue with one of the best rhymers of all time.
I'll give you that.
Very clever lyricist, and got into the game when he was like 15 years old, hanging out with the big timers, the Cash Money millionaires. I was loving that in high school. I don't love him as much today. I think he's a pretty bad person, but great rapper.
One of my favorite lines, he's got a great line to your point about rhyming, where he says, like, you can't expect me to sit next to a fire and not sweat. It sticks with me. So great.
Let's talk about this ice that I'm carrying, all these carrots, like I'm some kind of vegetarian. Good line.
Yes.
You know what, guys? If you're really rich, you don't talk about how rich you are.
I think you're right about that. You are right about that, Eric. You know, if you need to talk about it, you don't got it. All right, next one is Juicy J. Juicy J from 3 6 Mafia. No explanation needed for me. The best thing ever to come out of Memphis, and one of my favorite rap groups of all time. Juicy J's had a great solo career since leaving them. Jay-Z is number 2 on my list.
Very nice.
I mean, I can't have this list without Jay-Z. Number 1 is Eminem. Although I don't, the body of work, it's mixed, it's up and down. For me, when he's on at his best, when he's on, nobody was better. Nobody is better than Eminem. So that's my top 4.
He made my top 4 too. He made my top 4 too. Like I look at Eminem as a guy who helped change the game. Like he brought rap in a different direction, and the people that helped bring him there have a bleep ton of credibility, on the record and on the streets too. But number 1 is again. Just
hang on. You got to start at 4. Work your way down. That's the world of entertainment.
I agree.
Listen, even though you can buy and sell me, you are not the boss of me. This is Kanye West, number 4 for me. I And it's funny too, because I read this story and I didn't know we were doing this topic to the last second, but I read a story today about Kanye West that in 2013, he was $53 million in debt, trying to get people to fund his creative ideas. He is now the richest African-American in the history of the United States at $6.6 billion in net worth. That is phenomenal to me. Ghostwriter for Jay-Z. When Kanye was great, Kanye was great. Top 4 for me.
Sorry. Ghostwriter for Jay-Z?
I believe so. That's what I always thought.
He definitely he came the way Jay-Z brought him up as a producer. He was definitely a producer for a lot of Jay-Z's albums.
Okay, so maybe I got that. I thought maybe he was doing some behind the scenes writing with Jay-Z, but I could be wrong.
You might. Maybe I am. I don't know.
Biggie Smalls for me coming in at number 3. I just love the tone of his voice. I love the flow. Jay-Z at number 2, and number 1 is Tupac Shakur.
Wow, I would have had Biggie. Just the body of work is there's just not enough.
Yep.
Just first, I'm 46 years old. I know that maybe you're reluctant to let them know my age, but
we have it.
I'm totally fine.
We have a 4-year gap, right?
Yeah. It's
just
great.
like your wedges in golf. That's what it should be, always 4 degrees.
Is that right? Okay. So, and the other qualifier is that I'm not a big rap fan. I'm not going to pretend to be. My picks are going to reveal that. I'm more of a Debbie Gibson, Tiffany type of person, Perfect. Electric Youth kind of thing. So my top 4 are from 4 to 1. 4 would be Snoop
Dogg.
I just, again, because I'm a pop culture guy to begin with, he really penetrated the pop culture. And because of that penetration, I really like Snoop Doggy Dogg. Again, big fan of the penetration.
Guy's got a lot of kids.
Yes.
He was great in Old School, remember?
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
And he was great with Martha Stewart too. They were really good together.
Oh, hysterical.
And they actually dated. People don't know that because it's not true, but they dated. Number 3 on my list, and it reminds me of my cousins in California, my white cousins. They love Tupac. They introduced him to Tupac decades ago, and his music is really, really good. Number 2 on my list is Eminem. Again, I'm not a big rap guy, but from what I understand, for everything I've listened to, I just find his lyrics and pacing and melody, all that kind of stuff to be fantastic and different and unique. When you hear an Eminem song, you know it's his song. And number 1 on my list is a bit of a cheat. I hope you're okay with this. I suspect you won't be, but Lauryn Hill is number 1 on my list. I mean, Lauryn Hill has done some rapping. When she has, it's been fantastic. She's also very good looking. You guys know that for me, when someone's really good looking, I give them the benefit of the doubt, and she is supremely, supremely talented. So Lauryn Hill, number 1, if that's okay.
I don't know if she would have dated you, Eric, but
no, of course not.
Lauryn Hill, also the name of Shaun's high school, I believe.
That's correct. Named after Lauryn Hill.
The miseducation of Shaun Starr.
That's right.
By the way, Shaun, I love your background. The Expos bobbleheads, the Expos ball.
Say hi to Leon.
I love Leon.
Leon.
What's Leon doing? Is Leon making himself a steak?
He's waiting for his treats. It's snack time for the old boy.
Okay.
But you like my background? You like the
I love
the
it.
Stizzo license plate?
I love it. And you're definitely a fake plant kind of guy, because any real plant in your house will die quickly. And that's the way to do it. It's very organized. It strikes me that your cohabitee, your spouse set that up, or did you set that up yourself? Is that your work?
She did. Madvi. Yeah, there she is. You set that all up. Hey, say hi to everybody.
Okay, now is the time when we are. Thank you for hanging out with us. Please subscribe and like and comment, whatever it is, whichever platform you're on. Any feedback's appreciated. If there's something you'd like to hear us do or talk about, we'd be happy to hear from you in any way, shape, or form. If there's something you'd like to hear us do less of, like dry cleaning etiquette, something like that, we're always happy to hear it, one way or the other.
True.
Have fun and be kind to one another, and don't stop rocking, and the rock won't stop popping.
Yeah, and if you want to send me money, I have auto deposit, no password required.
And I just got an email from Conor's girlfriend, I need a lawyer. I don't know what that's about. Love you.
Oh, you filthy animal, Eric.